whatever they suggest or whatever idea they have, because that was really encouraging to me. And I got to give credit to another filmmaker, John Wesley Norton. One thing that he did that inspired me is I worked on a film of his called Dr. Spine. It starred Michael Wexler, who has since passed away, who was another real good friend of mine, who I really wish was still around. He was amazing and just a great person overall. But
I never got the chance to meet him, but I've seen him on screen, and God, he was talented. He was a very talented man.
On that film, Dr. Spine, I was in charge of extras casting. So I did all the casting of all the extras, and I was an extra in the scene. And I made a suggestion for a bar fight scene, and I don't even remember what the hell it was. I just know it was in that scene because I remember the setting where I was at when I talked to John. And I made some suggestion to him about, positioning people in a different way or whatever, and he used that. And it's the first time I ever worked with him. And that was just, it was encouraging to me to understand that, my thoughts and ideas, even as a brand new person, can be of quite a bit of value. And I've tried to use that same mentality going forward. When I have new people come on my sets, I always try to work with somebody new on everything that I do.
Right.
I always have people I consider my film family that I can trust and rely on if all else fails and the new green person doesn't show up, because that does happen. But
I'm sorry, Willie.
You better show up.
I'm fucking sorry, okay? It was not my fault.
I wasn't even talking about you, but yes.
Yes, people, it does happen. Some people just have other things going on, like an obsessive ex. Yeah. Anyways, so do you have any certain genres that you enjoy more than others, or are you kind of split with that?
I do. My favorite genre is not what people usually expect. I do a lot of films that are about social life issues.
Right.
Earlier this year in June, I came out publicly as bisexual, though many people close to me have known that for years.
Right, and it takes a lot to do something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's just who I've always been, really, and it's not that I ever tried to hide it. I mean, you knew before that.
Right.
A lot of people close to me have known. My family knows. My daughters, anyway. My extended family is a whole other story for another podcast. But I've done a lot of films based on those types of characters or situations. People coming out, or social life issues. I have anxiety. I did a film called Anxiety, which we actually use infrasound for. So it's like sound you don't hear, but can actually stir an emotional response out of people. And a lot of crazy sound effects in that film, just to make the viewer understand what anxiety feels like, because so many people don't get what clinical anxiety is.
Yeah, it's nothing to fuck with.
It's
definitely a monster of its own nature.
But my favorite, and most people think it's horror genre because I've been involved in horror things forever, but I don't do many horror films. That's the funny thing about it. So many people think I did this character on stage called Mr. Willy, and I'm all gothed out. And I host events, charity events, mostly horror events, metal shows. And everybody thinks because of that horror would just be my genre. That's my genre. But it is not. I get exhausted watching horror films for the Chicago Horror Film Festival or Indie Horror Film Festival. My favorite films to watch and also produce for the same reason are usually tearjerkers.
Oh, yeah.
Something extremely emotional, because if I'm a filmmaker and I'm sitting facing the audience as they watch the film for the first time, if I see people break tears, to me,
you did a damn good job.
There's no bigger reward for anything that I've done than that.
Yeah, who gives a shit about a piece of paper or a chunk of metal, man? Those tears, that right there is the true, true homage.
That
to
is
your
a
film.
true emotional response. I mean, the horror people get it too when they have a stunner or something that they've planned that they don't think anybody will realize, and they sit there and watch that happen.
The scare, like that right there, is the treat to us.
Yep.
But
for me, you shed a tear during one of my films, and I can write some pretty. I've had so many experiences in my life to fall back on that I've been able to write some pretty emotional stuff. I have a new screenplay I'm working on right now that was going to be a short that I'm going to extend into a feature because I'm in love with it, and I've made people cry, including yourself, reading this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was.
It's called Full Circle, and I can't wait to get that done. But tearjerker is definitely my genre.
Yeah, that was definitely an emotional piece because I connected with it in a way.
That's what I like. I like character-driven drama, tearjerkers. If I'm going to watch something, that's usually my go-to. If it's not a documentary, that's usually it.
So, with that film there, I mean, could you share a little bit more about that, or you want to kind of keep that away for another time?
It is. The story is about a guy who has cancer, and he had an old flame that shows up to his house. Basically, unexpectedly, she shows up to work as an in-home care nurse for him. And it's about the relationship they used to have. And they had a really close relationship that involved a lot of traumatic events that I won't get into. I'm going to save that for the film. But they had some really hard stuff that they went through when they were very young, just getting out of high school, basically. And they lose touch after they get through these, hard times. And then they're reconnected years later, several years later, when she comes to work as an in-home care nurse for him with stage 4 cancer. And it's emotional just to talk about that much of it. You can only imagine the places.
Yeah, I'm looking at you right now. Like, I can see the
You can only imagine the places it goes. And a lot of it falls back onto my experiences with cancer and, Crohn's disease and, past relationships and even current relationships and being a father.
Right.
And,
because, I mean, it talks about so much stuff that each person the audience you're reaching out to, they can all connect to that in some way, shape, form, or fashion, where they themselves have been a survivor, or they know someone, or even been the care nurse that has been there. Like, I mean,
you've read it, so you know some of the other details involved.
Absolutely.
And there are some other things that we're not mentioning.
I mean, hell, I myself have connected to it because of my mom, and so much other details that I won't go into. But
fortunately, my cancer struggle wasn't as bad as so many others. I didn't have stage 4 cancer. I was able to have a surgery and then get through it with some therapy. Thank goodness, and I hope that doesn't ever come back to get me again. But it's been quite some time. But so many other people that I know personally, that are close to me, or I've lost, or whatever, have inspired a lot of these characters and the situations. And what you've read is a short story version.
There's absolutely nothing compared to the real story once that screenplay comes to life.
Yeah, the feature is going to include a lot more things, and the balance right now is making it to where you're not exhausted, that you're intrigued, and you want to sit through it, and you want to see how things pan out for each of these
Tell you, man,
characters.
In one shape, form, or fashion, I would love more than anything to work on that project when it hits production. Yeah. But to shy away from that a little bit, what are your favorite character types, or what type of character would you like to portray in a project?
I worked on a film that you worked on called Missing Piece, and it was another drama.
Right.
Not quite so much a tearjerker. It was on the edge, more of a slice of life kind of film.
It was pretty close to a tearjerker.
It rides the edge, but
it's
it comes out to be not as traumatic. And I played a character called what's his name? Jack. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've had so many I forget sometimes, and I played Jack multiple times in different films.
I really like Nightmare Before Christmas, by the way. Good job.
If only. He's got the same haircut. But that film was put together with the intention of being able to portray a character that I wanted to do, and that was a dramatic, semi-romantic role, but more, he was a widowed character, and basically somebody who had kind of had more depth than many of the other characters I had. People are usually typecasting me as a serial killer or something to that effect.
So that was like your breakthrough role in the drama.
It was the first time I really played a character like that. and I wanted to do that so bad and continue to do that. Clarice Bear is one of the close. She's my co-star in that. She wrote the film along with her fiance Matt, and he did the music for it. And she and I are extremely, extremely close.
Very talented actress,
and
very talented.
It worked out great for me working with her because we are so close and we could have great chemistry on a screen without problem. And it was comfortable. It was a hell of a lot of work and a scary production to work on because it was only the people only people on screen working off screen, and then yourself added to that.
Right.
And that was about it. 4 people basically produced and acted in this film total to make the whole thing. As we lost people, the bigger challenges of filmmaking, like I mentioned, we had a DP that didn't pan out, so I ended up borrowing lights and setting up a camera on a tripod when you weren't there to run a camera, or one of us wasn't off screen to be able to maneuver a camera, and we still made the damn movie.
Right.
And we got it done. So there was a lot of reward in that film for me, not just the character type, but being able to make sure that it got done, and it did happen.
And that won an award too.
It did. I didn't win anything for it, but
who cares then?
That's okay. Chuck Winstead Brown, who played a supporting character in that film, won multiple awards.
Really?
I believe so. And then I know at least one, and I think that Clarice might have won something at one time too. But I forget, to be honest with you. It all kind of becomes a blur for me.
Facebook, where you at?
Yeah, I look it up somewhere. I have certificates I need to hang on the wall. Eventually that'll help because I can just reference them.
Right on. So, Willie, I definitely appreciate your time, man. We're going to take a break, and we will be back. This is Jeff Phoenix taking over Pod of Mayhem with Feathers of Flame. And as of right now, I think I'm going to go eat me a bowl of Cheerios while I watch Barney molest some kid. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. Don't even listen to that. You guys have a good night. We'll be right back.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, host of Weird Darkness, where I share stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Recently named one of the best storytellers in podcasting for 2019 by Podcast Business Journal. Whether it's ghosts, cryptids, true crime, or creepypastas, you'll find it all in Weird Darkness. Episodes uploaded 7 days a week. Search for Weird Darkness in your favorite podcast app, or listen now at WeirdDarkness.com.
Welcome back to the Pod of Mayhem, guys. This is Jeff Phoenix with the Feathers of Flame Takeover. Those Cheerios were really, really great. I had some ice cream and some jalapeno hot sauce on that. So we are back with Willy Adkins, filmmaker, award-winning actor, and entrepreneur.
And a million other things.
And yeah, absolutely. Bald of the shelf. I mean, lots of hair up there.
Right.
So now at the end of the segment, and you did this to me whenever I was on the show.
I do it to everybody.
And everybody else.
Yes.
So this is, and has to be, my favorite part.
Oh boy.
It's a game that Willie has created for his guests called Pod of Questions. What it is there's 10 questions that, and I'll explain if you wish, since you're the created. All right, so there are 10 questions, completely and totally random questions that are all about opinions or what you feel or anything as far as the first thing that pops up into your mind. Yeah, think about it if you have to. Just the first thing that pops in your mind. I don't have to really explain this to Willie because he's the one that created it, so I explain to the audience.
Though I don't know what any of your questions are.
Absolutely. As Willie just confirmed, we have not conversed about these questions at all whatsoever. I came up with them with complete and total unknowledge of you, all by myself. So,
I'm really curious to see what your mind came up with for questions.
Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be, man.
All right, so question number 1. If you had a penny for every time someone said your name, how rich would you be?
I'd be able to fund a feature-length film, for sure. And I would do that.
Would that be Hollywood production or independent?
Definitely be independent. I don't think people, muttered my name quite enough, but...
oh, man, if I was
I would say I would have at least a $50,000 budget.
$50,000 budget.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'd have Bill Gates beat. Man, when I was a